wanted to talk about today is the qualities that make this part of our waterfront so successful. I'm standing here in Pier 8 Park, which was built back in the late 1990s. The key thing that makes this part of our waterfront so successful is that it's open to all. This is your classic passive park. It's not restricted to one single activity. People can come here, they can hang out, they can have picnics, they can play frisbee, fish, cycle, run. It's open to all different types of uses. The key thing that we advocated in the beginning is that it should pass the blanket test. If people did not feel comfortable coming out here, putting down their blanket, having a picnic, gathering together with friends, family, then it's not truly a public space. So the second point is what they did was they invested in green. The trees, the grass. Here at Pier 8 Park, half of this 5-acre pier is dedicated to a lawn, and then the other half is a grove of trees. We have 97 London plane trees and then another 56 ginkgo trees. All of this is used very intensely. That's the starting point for designing a park. It should be a fundamental part of our design for the entire waterfront is green space, trees, all the way up and down the waterfront, providing a unifying element. Hoboken was very fortunate to have hired Henry Arnold, a landscape architect with an international reputation. And one of the things, in addition to the design of the park itself, is that the technique that was used. Underneath our feet here are 3 to 4 feet of what's called air-entrained soil. It includes an expanded shale, which prevents the soil from becoming compacted. Trees, they absorb carbon dioxide, but the roots actually need oxygen. So it's important that air is able to get down to the roots, as well as water, of course. That's why all the trees you see here on Pier 8 Park are thriving. They've reached an immense stature. We now have a wonderful canopy during the summer months when the trees are fully leafed out. And that's due to the planting techniques that were employed here. It's so sad to see when they try to create parks elsewhere in other parts of our waterfront where they plant trees and those trees don't survive. A London plane tree, if planted properly, can live to 100 years, 150 years old. And so it's a very modest investment initially that can last for generations. So when we started working on our plan for the Hoboken waterfront back in 1990, we hired a planner by the name of Craig Whitaker. And what he told us is in order to make this park along the water's edge successful, you need to have a clear delineation between what's public and what's private. And that's provided by the traditional Hoboken street grid brought all the way down to the waterfront. The last street here, Sinatra Drive, provides the line of demarcation between the upland private development and the continuous public park along the water's edge. So once you cross Sinatra Drive, coming in to the park, you instinctively know that you have entered a public realm, a space that belongs to you. So this separation between what's public and what's private is a key element in what makes Hoboken's waterfront so successful. And if you compare this to what you see elsewhere along New Jersey's Hudson River coastline, the communities to the north and to the the south as well, where they failed to extend their public street system to the waterfront. They have, in effect, failed to create a plan. They failed to make that delineation between the public and the private. And where you have the private development abutting the public walkway that's required by the state, that's not something that makes for a space that is truly public, a public realm, a space that belongs to you, without question. We're in a 5-acre Pier A park, and there are a number of structures, but they're all this scale. They're fairly small. They're used for different purposes. At the end of the pier, you have a pavilion, which is larger, but it's open. I think it's very important in thinking about the park at Union Dry Dock that if there are to be any structures, it's only 3 acres. So it can't be anything that's oversized, that's going to take up too much of the space that's accessible to the public. The beauty of what they did here is there were not a lot of bells and whistles. The design is very straightforward. The granite curbing, the paving, the railing, the landscape design, it all ties together in one coherent design. And that's the thing that really makes it successful. It's not an overblown design. They didn't try to do anything fancy or overwrought. It's the simplicity of it that really is a large part of its beauty. Our original plan that we created in 1990 called for a continuous public park at the water's edge along the Hudson River, from the south end of Hoboken at the Jersey City border all the way to the north end at the Weehawken Cove. And the key to make this successful is that it is fully connected. Piece by piece it's been coming together, and you can now see, just standing here at the South Waterfront, how people are using this as a linear park. They're walking their dogs, they're walking to work, they're getting their daily exercise by running, cycling. But the fact that it's fully connected from one end to the other is what makes this truly a special place.